Hey everyone, welcome to all our viewers across the world and our World Business Forum audience and all our Chief Executive Magazine readers. I'm Martin Lindstrom, your co-host, along with my dear friend and the world's #1 leadership coach, Marshall Goldsmith. Marshall is a member of the Thinkers 50 Hall of Fame and has written some of the most iconic books out there, like What Got You Here Won't Get You There and Mojo, How to Get It. But besides that, I have to say, Marshall, I'm just impressed by how you can keep up with me on this show without killing me halfway through. So thank you for being a dear friend of me, and thanks once again for joining the M&M show.
I am here with my wonderful friend, Martin Lindstrom, the world's expert on branding. Martin Lindstrom, author of The Ministry of Common Sense, which I love that, also of biology and lots of other great books. Time Magazine said one of the 50 most influential people in the world. Yeah, look at that, 50 most influential people in the world. On the other hand, I've heard he's entered into the galactic competition against the tough competitors from Mars and other places. But in this world, he's right there at the top. Martin is also one of the world's most interesting human beings. So if you ever get a chance to learn anything about Martin, learn it. He is one of the most interesting humans I've ever met in my life. And a good guy.
Marshall, I have to say that I was so much hoping you wouldn't say that, because the guests we have on the show today are so much more interesting than me, okay? Anyway, everyone out there, if you have any questions or comments, just post them here or tell us who you are and where you are. And if you, by the way, like this show, don't forget to press the like, the follow, or the subscribe button. Now, I have to tell you one thing. I will never forget when I stepped into an office on the 31st floor belonging to one of the largest banks in the world. The bank had asked me to introduce common sense. So I made an appointment with a member of the compliance team. Go figure, right? So here's what happened. So you must have produced a lot of rules out there, I said to this lady sitting there, kind of half jokingly, right? Where she said, and this was very interesting. She said, yeah, I have. And she handed my a phone book size manual. And she was right. The book was packed with rules from A to D. The 6 other manuals were, by the way, waiting for me on the shelf. So while I was running this interview, I flicked through the book, right? And I stopped at a rule. And here's the rule. Digital signatures are not valid. Always ensure that the client sends a fax of the signed contract. I said, a fax? Isn't that a bit dated? And she said, yeah, but that's not my problem. So why don't you just throw out this rule? I said, well, why should I? She said, I'm paid to create rules. I'm not paid to destroy my own work. Brief in, brief out, Marshall. I guess I've seen my fair share of corporations, but I can think of one person which had for sure beaten both Marshall and I. And he's joining us now. He started in the US Navy, was later listed among the 100 most influential people in Silicon Valley. Then he wrote the book, In Search of Excellence, the most widely held library book in the United States from 1989 to 2006, and one of the top 3 business books of the century, according to Wall Street Journal. He's one of today's most influential management thinkers. In 2013, he joined the Thinkers 50 Hall of Fame. And this year, yet another book, I think it's book number 19 or something, arrived from our guest, Excellence Now, Extreme Humanism. Let's play the drum rolls, please, everyone, for our guest. Tom, welcome. The iconic Tom, welcome.
You could have kept going with that introduction for another 5 or 10 minutes, but no, honest to God, I'm overwhelmed by what you said. I seriously am. I'm just an old former engineer who really only understands a little bit of what our next guest understands.
Well, I can tell you, you disguise it very well then, if that's the case. I have to ask you a question. What is extreme humanism?
Well, first, before doing what I'm supposed to do, I'm going to go back to your manual thing. 515 pages. What was the length of it? The fat books. So when Mr. Clinton became president, Al Gore, his vice president, started something that actually worked remarkably well. And it was called REGO, or Reinventing Government. And it didn't focus on problems. It focused on the lots of people who actually did things well. At any rate, the parallel to what you said is Bob started out with a manual that was 700 pages long, and he called in his number two, and I am speaking God's truth to you, called in his number two and said, I want this reduced to the size of a postcard, which is utterly, completely, and unbelievably insane. But he pulled it off. I guess I've been thinking about extreme humanism, though I didn't know it for a long time. But in a funny way, I just figured it out. I have a problem of reading everything I could get my hands on. And I read about this fascinating study. A bunch of radiologists are, the tech who takes your shot is not doing anything. The radiologist who might be anywhere is the person who's making the important interpretations. At any rate, a bunch of radiologists were asked to review some large number of screens. But the catch was that each screen had a little square picture of the person who had been photographed. So after the fact, they go through it, and what term they use is what they're really looking for is anomalies, the things that don't quite work that might tip us off on something extraordinary. The same group of radiologists got the same film about 60 days later, and the number of anomalies that they found dropped by 80%, and the amount of time that they spent on each study almost doubled. I mean, there's extreme humanism, and it does two things that I like to say. It talks about extreme humanism, and it says, I've been on this wicket forever. It's the little stuff. It's the tiny stuff that mounts up consistently and so on. So I'm a little stuff freak. Don't ever talk to me. If you ever use a big word around me like disruption, I will either throw up or walk off the stage. So that's number one. Number two in my answer is there was a day that changed my entire life, and I didn't know it at the time. When Bob Winterman, my co-author, and I were working on In Search of Excellence one morning, we drove down from the San Francisco office 30 miles to Palo Alto and visited a upstart, not all that big company down there called Hewlett Packard. We walked in the door. We said we wanted to speak to John Young, the president. We expected, of course, because we worked in the Bank of America Tower, that we would get the executive assistant to the executive assistant to the executive assistant. But instead, we got John Young, who just walked out and said, "What can I do for you guys?" So he's going through his little ritual, and he comes up to the four letters which changed my life. MBWA, managing by wandering around. And why do I say they were the most important words? I was a McKinsey guy. I lived on charts and graphs and abstractions, and MBWA defined intimacy. And I know I didn't figure it out the next morning, but literally, I don't know what the hell my definition of management was before that happened, but whatever it was, it flipped about 179.5 degrees. And that was a game changer for me. And it's something that an amazing number of people who read the book actually remember as well.